do we want to do real estate for the rest of our lives? The question of, can you have success? Sure. But what level of success I think really matters. Like if I can leverage my real estate team to springboard this business, why wouldn't I do it?
Welcome back to another episode of the Austin Zaback Show. Today, we have a good friend of mine, Keith Anderson, in the building. And, Keith is a guy, man, dude, you did, 900 retail deals last year, just about, or just over 900.
Yeah.
And which is incredible, by the way. I cannot wait to get to that level on the retail side. And I'm excited to talk about that. To do almost 1,000 transactions on the retail division, as a real estate agent, right, and a real estate team within a brokerage, is truly incredible. And obviously now you're branching off into mortgage. You're doing multiple different things, which I'm excited to kind of talk about. You're really becoming like a serial entrepreneur, which I think most real estate team leaders are just like, they run a hobby, right? And man, I just appreciate you being on the show, bro.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Yeah. No, we think about it all the time, right? Like, because we have those standard conversations of what's that end game, right? We talk about it all the time with real estate. And most team leaders become team leaders out of necessity because they're so good at real estate. They're like, well, what's the next step, right? Like, let's start a team or let's head this way. And so they stay in that like rainmaker model box for years, right? Can they sit in there? But there's not that next step. And so I'm excited to chat a little bit about that and that journey we took because we had to make a conscious decision early on in our actual business to decide, like, do we want to do real estate for the rest of our lives? Like, there's really two routes to go. And our big vision, I think, was, no, we don't. Like, we don't want to be selling real estate forever. Like, that's not our priority. And so if you leverage your real estate business as a springboard, if you will, to actually do everything else that actually makes the money in the industry, it changes your trajectory on what you actually want to do long term in this space, right?
Yeah. You said a minute ago that most people start a team because they're doing too many deals.
Yeah,
right?
Or they're just really good.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I also think there's one other reason why people do it, and this is the wrong way to do it, okay?
Yeah.
And they're not doing enough deals. So it's the opposite of the first reason, right? Which is, the first one's good, right? Hypothetically, okay, I'm doing too many deals. I need to bring on a buyer's agent. I need to bring on a TC. I need to build a company, right? Like, I'm so busy, I need to build a company, right? I think that's good, right? But the other reason is I'm not doing jack. I'm kind of lazy, like maybe I want to build a team. And so like they force it, right?
Yeah.
And they go try to like recruit agents, but they're not even busy yet. Like, do you see that?
I see it more from the agent that like has been doing real estate for like 6 months. And we've had a few agents like that in our team where they've had that conversation with us after like 6 months, brand new agent. And they're like, you know what, Keith, I think I got it all figured out. I know everything that there is to know about real estate. I think I'm going to start a team. I think I'm going to go that route. And I'm like, you know what? More power to you. I respect everything that you're saying, but I'm still learning everything every single day, even at this stage of running a team, right? And so I 100% agree. Like, you get your feet wet, you get a couple of deals in the pipeline, and you're like, oh, this is it. I know how to run a team. I can do what you're doing. And it does. It happens. And so they're thinking like, hey, if I can't do enough deals to pay my bills, then maybe if I had a few agents with me, I can make those bills a little bit easier by leveraging them and taking a little piece of theirs. But there's so many headaches with running a team that people are not aware of that I think those are the teams that get in trouble really quick. And they're like trying to swim back up to shore, if you will, or up for air, and you're never going to get it back up to air if you start your team that way. It just doesn't happen.
I completely agree. I'm excited to stay on this subject for a few minutes because I think, like, in 2023, there's a lot of team leaders that are going to fail.
Oh, yeah.
Like, a lot. And I think that...
a lot.
Right?
Yeah, like not a little.
No, like a lot, And I think... and there's a lot of solo agents, I think, that are going to fail. And I think a lot of brokerages are going to fail. Like, a lot of people are going to fail.
Yeah, and I think the difference is like, not just teams, like good teams are going to fail. Like names names you've seen for a while, names you've recognized as like, wow, this team's great. They're going to fail. in 2023.
I agree. I completely agree. So then why is it that like we were talking a little bit before the show, right? Like I run a wholesaling company.
Yeah.
And my initial thing was wholesaling. Like
Yeah.
I got into that before I was an agent, right? The opposite, I think, of what most people do.
Yeah.
And our wholesaling company, in full transparency, and I've talked about this before, runs at like a 55 to 60% profit margin.
Yeah.
Like all said and done.
Yeah.
Right? We're talking, multiple seven figures, if not eight figures,
Yeah.
going into 2023 at a 60% profit margin, right?
Yep.
Where a retail team, bro, like, dude, like,
it's fun, isn't it?
right. I think our retail team, I don't even know. I'll bet you we run our retail division at a 15% profit margin. Maybe.
At best, sometimes.
Yeah, like at best,
That's if
like,
you have good months in
yeah.
there. Yeah.
So why do people want to start a team? And like, what's the biggest misconception around starting a retail traditional team?
My business partner Pete and I, we talk about this all the time, right? Being a team leader looks pretty. It really does. It looks glamorous. It looks like the job that everyone wants to do, like golfing all the time, speaking in front of the big room, making all this money. And it looks like where you want to be, right? Like that's the next trajectory of your career. The sad part is I could probably make twice the money selling real estate myself than running a massive real estate team. And no one really knows that. Like, and we're pretty transparent about it. Like we tell people, guys, like we don't make as much money as you think I make. Like at the end of the day, because that same profit margin runs true for most teams. It's usually a 15 to 25% margin, right? Like if you think about it, most teams aren't taking massive splits, right? So we're getting pinched there, and on top of it, we're paying salaries and staff and expenses and paying for everything and anything possible. And so we get squeezed so much, and it becomes a volume play in order to make sense and profit on the real estate team. So I think it's a very glamorous job, and people want to do it. Like it's going to be so much fun not selling real estate and teaching it instead, and it becomes its own hurdle. So I think the biggest misconception you see is people start a real estate team because they're really good at real estate, not necessarily that they're very good at running a business. And I think that it's in a completely different ballpark of running something. And Pete and I, we talk about it all the time. Agents starting teams because they're good at being an agent, not running a business. And there's such a distinct difference. Luckily, Pete and I were better at running a business even than we were starting a real estate team. So being an agent. And so we knew, I would say, the fundamentals of expanding on your marketing and running a lead gen platform and actually processes, systems, being a manager of people. Like all of those things become important when you start a team, and they're not important when you're running your real estate team because your only employee is yourself,
Sure.
right? Like you're your own CEO. And so when you actually start a real estate company and an actual team or a brand or whatever, you actually have people you need to manage. You have people you need to keep accountable beyond just yourself. Now you have to truly delegate and rely that someone can do it good enough to keep the business going, versus when you're your agent and you're the only person doing this thing, it's like you're doing everything. Mm-hmm. So you know it's going to get done to the level that you want it to be, right? So I think too many people start a real estate team because they're good at real estate and not actually because they're good at running a business and they don't really know everything that's in store for them as they're getting into it, until they're too deep into it and they're like, oh no, what did I do? Mm-hmm. Like, can I take a step back? Can I go back and sell real estate? So
and a lot of times it's hard to go back.
Oh, it's pride too. Yeah. Like you got to swallow pride and say, you know what? This wasn't a good fit for me. I'm better at just being an agent. I'm better at being a piece of something bigger versus trying to run the show.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah. You said one time, I think I remember you saying that, and I don't remember exactly how you said it, but you said basically that a team, okay, is at like, let's just say like 5 agents, it is profitable, and then at like 80 agents, it's profitable. And you were, and I can't remember the context of the conversation, but you were talking about how this like middle ground in a lot of scenarios is not profitable
at all.
Like people you go from like small and profitable to not profitable to profitable again if you ever get there.
Yeah.
Because getting to 80, right? Like getting to where you're at, a lot of people never get there.
Yeah.
So they get stuck in the middle ground, which is like 20 agents, right? Or 30 agents, which typically isn't profitable. So like what would you say to that person, right? Like what they're at 5. Like do they stay at 5? At 3 agents, they're at 3 agents. They're slammed, everybody's busy. They're making money, right? Because I think you can make money running a small team.
100%.
Because there's enough happening, right? And you got maybe a really good buyer's agent, you've got a really good listing agent, you've got a bunch of lead gen coming in maybe. Like, should they just stay there?
Quite possibly. There's a key swing there that like you don't touch on, right? Is when you transition with agent count, your business transitions. So when you run a small team, you're still selling real estate. Like you can't. The team actually is not profitable with 5 agents. It's not. The reason it's profitable is you're still doing 2 to 5 transactions a month. It looks profitable. So you see those smaller teams and you're like, man, they're like doing some sales. They're driving nice cars. They go and invest, right? Because they're like, we're killing it. We're making all this money, which in reality, they're making a small split from a few agents. And then they're still doing 3 to 5 deals, right?
A month.
Yep. Because they have to pay the bills. In all reality, when Pete and I first started, we were underwater. Like if we didn't sell deals ourselves, we never would have been able to have the team. Like we couldn't. So we were actually doing real estate transactions to pay for them, the other agents on our team, to sell their deals, right? So like we were paying for them to have opportunity, which is crazy to think. So it's really a definitive moment in deciding what type of real estate team you want to run. Because there's really 2 distinctive ones, right? You got the Rainmaker model, which is that small team that you described. And then you have more of that enterprise model, which is what Pete and I run, which is we're fully removed. Like we're not in it on a daily basis. Like we could go away for a month and it would still grow. It would still build. And that's the definitive moment of, is your team or business viable? Is it actually functioning right? It's like, can you leave for 3 months, come back and it's better than it was before? Not just maintain, like, can you leave and it grew? Like, are you getting more profit now 90 days later than you were when you were there? And if the answer is no, then you really don't have a viable business yet. Like, you can't sell that. Like, you can't grow that. So the problem with the Rainmaker model, if you dip out for 90 days,
it's over.
It's gone.
Yeah.
Like, you can't. And all of those agents are relying on your leads and your actual real estate business. So that Rainmaker model is tough because I truly think that's the most profitable margin and model in all of real estate. The small team Rainmaker model will make you the most because you're still doing 3 to 5, so you're racking it in, and you have a few agents helping supplement, and your staff and your expenses are small.
Yep.
Like,
agreed.
Perfect model, but you will never exit.
Right. You will never exit, and
Never exit.
You'll get tricked, right? Like the world tricks you into thinking, let's scale.
Oh yeah, let's scale with this.
Yeah, like we're onto something here. Like let's go to 10. Let's go to 20, right?
Like yeah.
And then the next thing you know, you're in a predicament.
Yeah, because now you're paying for staff.
Right.
And what are you doing with your
and
time?
You've got an office, and you've got lead generation. And
so now you're paying for expenses. Your deals are going towards expenses, not your pocket like they were with 5, right? And so the other piece of that animal, if you will, is when you're scaling out and you're growing, you're shifting your time from doing real estate sales to helping grow agents, teaching them, training them, recruiting them, maintaining those relationships and so forth, and you're scaling out. And so if you give up half your time that you used to do selling real estate, making you tangible money immediately for a fourth of the commission checks, right? Because you're not making the 100% anymore. You're making a fourth of it on average. How much you need to do 4 transactions on your team to offset one of your deals that would have took a fourth of your time. So it's like an 8-degree swing, if you will. And you're thinking this makes perfect logical sense, but then you catch yourself in that 20 agent count bubble and you're only doing 1 to 2 deals a month, and now your expenses are 4 times higher. And now you're also looking at your team like, if they don't do deals, you don't survive.
Right.
And a lot of those teams are in that spot right now in 2023 because they've just went through the 3 best years we've seen in real estate for a team.
If you've ever wanted to get into wholesaling real estate and you want to learn how to flip contracts and wholesale, right? Maybe you're brand new, maybe you've never wholesaled a deal, or maybe you're even doing a couple of deals a month right now, but you want to learn how to do more. Instead of joining my coaching program or somebody else's coaching program, we're actually looking to hire. So go ahead and message me 480-418-5339 and send me a text message opportunity, okay? So if you want to work with me, you want to work with my incredible team, you want all of our leads, you want all of our systems, all of our processes, everything, right? And I've done about 2,000 wholesale deals in my career, then go ahead, shoot me a text, 480-418-5339, and message me opportunity. And look, especially if you're in my state, okay, the state of Arizona. If you live in Arizona and you want to get into wholesaling, this especially is an opportunity for you because you can come sit right in this office with my entire team and be a part of one of the biggest wholesaling companies in the country. I look forward to talking to you.
In decades, right? Like, it's never been better than it has. It's weird. COVID happens and our real estate
Market
goes insane.
Wild, yeah.
And it's better than it's ever been. And so you're in this mode of like, oh, we just scaled. But what people don't understand is that you were successful despite yourself. Like, that's such a true concept as a team leader, is when you're successful despite your shortcomings. And so it blinds you to actually see what your issues are in your business. So when everybody's making money, no one notices the issues and the holes in your ship.
Sure.
No one notices it. When you're going through a recession and the market's changing, everybody notices the holes in your ship. Trust me, you're sinking, right? And so it's too late to fix all those holes when your ship's already halfway underwater. Like, it's crazy, but it's true. And so I think that's where a lot of teams are at right now. They've had 6 months of like, oh no, what is this? We haven't faced this yet. Whereas like teams like ours, like Pete and I, we've been preparing for the recession for 5 years. Like, we're like, okay, what's going to happen? How are we going to do that? And so now we're growing through it. We're adding businesses. We're taking advantage of a difference in the market where a lot of teams are going to be just trying to figure out a way to survive. And figure out, they'll go back to selling real estate. Their teams are going to split in half and a fourth, and they're going to be looking for different options.
Agreed. Yeah. And you can't be in survival mode and like have an abundance mindset at the same time because you're just focused on surviving, right? What would you say, like, when you look at a team, you know, in general, attrition, there's all these different like components to running a team, right? You have like retention, right, which is a big one. People come, people go. And we'll dive into that in a minute. You've got like lead generation, you've got transaction coordination, you've got marketing, advertising, you have culture. Like, there's different reasons why people join a team. Education, like mentorship, hand-holding, right? What would you say, like, if you had to, you know, narrow it down to a thing or two that you guys have done really well, like you and Pete, like what have you guys done really well with your team that has allowed you to get to the level that you're at today?
I think it's a combination of a couple things, right? And I've had conversations like this with a lot of people of like, well, why does someone join a team? Like, that was like a common thing, right? And we banged our heads against the wall for years trying to figure out like, well, why does someone join a team? Like, why not do this yourself? And we've come down to the realization that culture matters so much more than people give it credit for. Like, it really does. Like, when you really narrow it down, the average agent in our industry is doing 6 to 10 deals max. Like, that's just their spot.
A year.
Yeah. And they're cool with that. Like, that's it. So why would that agent join a team? Why does that agent stay in real estate? Like, is that enough money to really change? Because my mindset is like, that's not enough. Like, I'm not happy with that type of a income, goal. But a lot of people are, which is cool. And I'm happy for them. So why did that agent want to join a team? Why is that agent doing that? And at the end of the day, we drew it down to the key common thing that people want friends. People want community. They want people. Like, at the end of the day, people join a team for people, not for they can lie to themselves and say it's for leads or make more money or support or, you know, and those things do matter, right? Like, they're a big piece of it. They help camouflage the bigger pie. But if people were really like looking internally and they thought like, why do this? The real answer is they just don't want to do it alone. Like,
so valuable.
Like, I started a team with a business partner because I didn't want to run a team alone. Like, I'm a team within my own team within a bigger piece because it's like I didn't want to start a real estate team alone. That would suck.
Yeah.
Like, who do you talk to? Like, you're always gonna have, like, if you look at the teams out there and they have one team leader, they're probably stressed out of their mind or they have to have a coach or they have to have someone in their corner all the time because there is no one that knows that spot better than a business partner in the same hole that you're in, right?
Yeah.
So I think the difference, what we've done really well is we've created an environment or a culture where people can come together and do this life together, if you will. And that's a big piece. Obviously, like, our training helps draw and leads help draw and all this stuff helps, right? But at the end of the day, if we're being honest, like, truly just looking at our team, people just want to do real estate together. They don't. That's why working from home only works so long, and those people leave the industry. They want to do it with people.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
I completely agree. I think that one thing that we always like kind of like knew, like I've done it wrong and I've talked a lot about that and I've done it like the right way, I think. But culture's everything, right? Like, you walk out in our office right now and it's just like there's
people everywhere.
Everywhere, right? Which I'm still blown away by sometimes. I'm like, sometimes I walk in here, I'm like, dang, dude, like, we did that, like, how'd we pull that off, right? And but it was the daily consistent action, right, over the course of like a freaking decade of just like setting the example and pouring value, man, and time and energy and money and anyways, I agree. I think culture is incredible. You have to have it, and I don't think you can succeed without culture.
Yeah.
Like, what are your thoughts on you? We were talking before the show about you getting an office, another office, right?
Yeah.
A new office, like a really dope one, right?
Yeah.
And obviously, we have a pretty cool space here. And I've talked, and I almost want to make like videos on this, like specifically, right? Like, can you succeed in 2023 and beyond as a team leader, running a wholesaling company, or anything that requires like a team of people, right? Can you do it without an office? Like, can you totally do it virtually? Like,
Yeah. Well, like we're at EXP, right?
Yeah.
And so it's a thought that goes through your mind all the time, right? It's like, well, we're a virtual cloud brokerage, but they just have a virtual office. At the end of the day, they have a brick and mortar. It's just electronic brick and mortar, if you will. But, it's a conversation that, that our culture, our world just got thrusted upon them in a way that they've never had to deal with before, right? So COVID comes in and it opens up this opportune conversation where it's like, whoa, we might not need an office. Like, what is this Zoom thing, or what is Google Meet and all these different like platforms of like allowing you to collaborate from a distance wearing boxers and that's it, right? Like, there's been this overwhelming vibe. And then you got all these news articles that come out and say your employees are 65% more productive if they're at home and in the comfort of their home and stuff like that. And you're like, for how long though, right? Because people create energy and excitement. They might be more productive because they're getting bored and they need to sit there in front of their screen and just get stuff done. But innovation and, inventation and opportunity, like, all those things happen from people being around other people, coming up with ideas, just doing nothing but talking about what they want to do and dream and build. And so the question of, can you have success? Sure. But what level of success, I think, really matters, right? Like, in this day and age, I don't think I'll ever say never, right? Like, ever again.
Yeah.
But if I had to give like a 3% opportunity of success, sure.
Yep.
But in all reality, hot take wise, I don't think so.
Yeah, the difficulty level.
Oh my
right?
God, you're making it so much harder on yourself.
Yeah, like, and sustainability and the speed in which I think you can scale, right? Like, I think the amount of trial and tribulation you would have to go, and I think it depends on the industry, right? Like, when you look at, like, we're in the people business, like, period, right?
Yeah,
like
100%.
And most industries are actually in the people.
Yeah, that's
industry,
like mankind
right?
as a whole is the people business.
So, like, could Elon, take, like, I think there's certain roles, right? Like, where maybe it's like software or maybe it's tech, right?
Yeah.
Like, where you're truly, and I don't even know if that would be true, but where you truly could succeed, I think, at home in front of your computer, and maybe that would be beneficial. I think in most industries, I think it's not beneficial actually at all, and I think that people that attempt it will probably not succeed.
Well, you hit
term,
you
at
hit
least
on
at a
something.
large level, right? Like I think you said it best, like the scale in which you succeed, right?
Yeah, I think, and you hit on a key thing, right? Was attrition. Like you talked about it. Like attrition's a big part of the real estate team and real estate as a whole in all companies, right? So how easy is it to leave your team if you've never met anybody? How easy?
Yeah.
Like if you don't know anyone and you just met the recruiter and you work from home and you're doing your thing and you're like, every once in a while we have an event and you don't really know anyone, how easy is it to send an email?
There's no emotion.
Yeah, it's like, I don't think this is the best fit
I
for
don't
me. I'm
have
going to go try
empathy.
something else.
Yeah.
It's like, it's easy. But if you're in the office every day with people and you build relationships and you get to know them and like, I know your family and then like, I know that your kids' names, like I've been over to your house for dinner, like life happens from community, right? How much harder is it to be like, I'm going to leave this because I'm going to go find something better? Like how much greener is the grass on the other side? Yeah. So I think that fear of loss is so much elevated with culture in a workspace and an office that attrition goes way down, right? Like your retention issues go way down if they know they're leaving something, right? And we've had issues in the past. Like that's one of the reasons why co-work spaces don't always function as good as you can or as you'd like, because if you have your office out of your brokerage, here's a prime example. If your office is in your own brokerage, right? We see Keller Williams with it all the time. We see just independent shops all the time. And you have your real estate team and you're like in your brokerage office space. And you have an agent that wants to leave your team. Okay? Yep. They're like, you know what? I don't want to pay these splits anymore. I'm going to do it on my own. If they leave your team and they're still coming to the same office every single day and they still see all the same people every single day, does it feel like they really left your team? Did they really lose culture? Not really, because they see all the people the same day. The difference is now they're not paying splits, whereas before they were, right? So like look at your office and look at your team out there. If someone left your team, where are they leaving? They're not coming in here anymore, right?
No.
They're done. They just lost all those people.
You're not allowed in here.
No, of course not, right? So like the difference is you see so many teams struggle again in that middle gap because they can't go get their own space. True. They can't go get their own vibe. So they work out of their brokerage, and when they lose an agent, the agent just is out of your little independent office space, and now they're in the little co-work area, and they're still saying hi to all the same people every single day. They're still going and doing activities and events with the same people every single day. So the pain of loss isn't there. Sure. So when you get your own brick and mortar as a team, you separate everything. When an agent leaves your team, then they feel it.
Agreed.
It matters. So I think that's where that really matters for office is the culture question again. We come back to it. When you have an office, you have culture. If you don't have an office, there's really no culture. It's just nice Zoom meetings.
I totally agree. I think that culture and community, you really said it well when you said life happens, right? Like I get to know people.
Yeah.
And then it becomes difficult to leave, right? And, and it's just totally true. I mean, it's just think of any monogamous relationship you've ever been in, right? Like you spend a lot of time with somebody and now it's like it makes it difficult, right? Yeah. You're like, you see it all the time where people are in a bad relationship and they don't want to leave, right? Because it's hard to leave.
They're getting abused,
right?
And they physically can't leave.
They don't want to leave. And now, obviously, that wouldn't be the case if they never spent any time together. Like if they just did it all via Zoom, then it would probably be easier to leave, right?
It's like online dating. It's like how easy is that going to be to be like, it's not a good fit.
Agreed.
You know? It's like easy.
I totally agree. And I want to talk a little bit in a little while about ways that team leaders can make more money and maybe ancillary and things like that. And I want to get into that in a little while, but before we do, I want to talk a little bit about like lead generation, right? You guys have done, I think, that pretty well. You have obviously have Zillow, you have which and I'd love to even talk about that a little bit. What is there, like 8 people in the state of Arizona that have Zillow Flex?
Yeah. Well, we're Zillow Flex Select, so like I guess you would say cream of the crop, if you will. Like we get first crack at a lot of stuff because our size, our volume, our processes, our systems. We had to interview for that years ago. Like we had to qualify in Zillow's eyes as a true business. Like they're evaluating us of like, can these people actually run a company? and it's not just individual. And Zillow's been charging people, and they still do all over the country, right? Like charging you for leads, you pay for it. They don't care. At the end of the day, they want
Premier agent, right?
Yeah, they want consumers to have a great experience. That matters. But at the end of the day, they're getting paid if you close the deal or not. With the Flex platform, they don't get paid, you know, the same way that they used to if you don't close the deal. So it matters more, and so they have to evaluate these teams and the structure. So yeah, we're one of 8 that are doing this in Arizona. It's one of the toughest and tightest markets to enter, and they're cutting teams left and right with the market volatility. So it's interesting to see the scalability of what this thing looks like, but leads are more scarce now, and they're more needed. It's kind of a weird box that we're sitting in.
And for the agent, right? Like the agent needs them more now than ever, I think.
Yeah.
The individual agent, which is one of the reasons why an agent would join a team. One of many, obviously, right? Like culture, everything we just talked about. But so when an agent joins your team, they get, well, I guess every agent's probably not on Zillow when they join.
Not.
It's like the top 10%, or how do you do it?
We classify in 3 groups, if you will, and they know those groups and they know what groups they're in, right? It's based on attendance. It's based on conversion rate. Like we say all the time, like I think one of our biggest things that we're big about is that we're fair but not equal. Like it's so key, and we're honest and we're upfront about that. Like guys, this, you know, the United States, America is a capitalistic country. Like this is what we were founded on. Like everybody's
hopefully we stay that way.
Well,
but that's
you know,
yeah,
whole nother podcast for a whole nother different time. But you know, everybody's got a fair crack at it, right? Like in all reality, we all got the birth lottery, whether we like it or not. Like we all got that.
Yeah, we won that.
Yeah, easily. And so if you were born in the United States and you're complaining about certain things, like I can't have the same realistic conversation. Now I know that like everybody has different, you know, paths and where you get to where you're at today, but at the end of the day, there's third world countries that did not win that lottery.
And not for you to lose your train of thought, but I think there's a stat out there that's like if you're homeless in America, okay, you're in the top 1% of the world.
Yeah, it's stupid.
Yeah,
like I'm worried about certain things in my life, and I have multiple TVs, multiple cars. Like it's crazy, right? And so to be thankful, and that gratitude piece starts it out, but having true mindset matters. Like again, we're fair, not equal, and it's really, really key. We're going to give everybody a fair crack, but I'm going to give more to the agent that comes in every day, that works harder, that practices, that has the opportunity to succeed, and sets my business up for more success. Why would I not reward that agent with more? Why would I give that, you know, participation trophy concept to my whole team and everybody's got an equal crack at whatever we are doing? It's just not true. It's like if you are a team and you want to succeed and win, like look at any professional sports team. You know, like Patrick Mahomes doesn't go sit on the bench in the second half to let his backup QB have a crack at it because their team's equal. They want to give equal playing time. No, they're fair, right? Like both of those quarterbacks have a chance to win the job. I mean, I'm a big Seahawks fan, and I'm looking at the 49ers, and I'm just pissed, right? Because they're just winning, and they're doing so good. Yeah. But look at Brock Purdy. Like, he is such a popular concept right now in the sports world. He was Mr. Irrelevant, the last pick in the draft. He still got drafted. The very last pick, though, right? You can argue the fair but not equal concept with him immensely. He had a fair crack at it. He's showing up at the team. You know, they're going through their training, they're going through everything in the off season, and he's working and he's learning, and he's got just as fair of a chance as anybody, right? But it's not equal. Like the 49ers are going to use whoever's doing the best job. And you know what? He got an opportunity, and now he's showing the whole world that he's better than the guys they drafted second overall, that traded up for, right? And now he's in there slaying it, leading them to a playoff run that's unlike anything they've seen in years, right? But he's Mr. Irrelevant. He's not supposed to be good.
Right.
He's never supposed to have a starting job, probably for his entire career. Like he's never going to get a true crack at it. But you know what? He took that fair but not equal concept to reality. He got a shot. He just did more with his shot than other people do. And so it's the same thing with real estate, like with leads and with anything in general. If you're a real estate team leader and you're giving everybody the same amount of leads, in all reality, you're doing it wrong. You should be giving your best opportunities to your best agents because they have the highest chance to go out there and get the deal done and get the job done and make money for everybody. So And I'm not, Pete and I, we're not shy about that at all, because if an agent comes to us and say, hey, you know what, like, why did they get that opportunity and I didn't? And I tell them, like, they're better than you.
Yep.
Be better than them and you'll get that opportunity. Like, it's
Simple.
up to you. It's so simple. It's like,
Yeah.
when you're better than them, you will get more opportunities than they do, plain and simple. And I think our culture has just been so morphed for years now of like this thinking of like, well, that's not fair. Like, that's the conversation people have. And I say, no, it's fair. You both showed up today. The difference is they're working harder, so it's not equal. And
Yeah.
I think that's the concept that a lot of people are forgetting. They use the word fair, but in reality, they mean that's not equal. And I think that's where it's off kilter a bit.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that you're right on the money. I think you're doing it perfectly. It's how we do it, right?
Yeah.
Like there's definitely like different tiers of like lead generation that we give to our agents, you know, and we have our best agents on the best lead generation, right?
Absolutely.
The things that are either the most exclusive, the riskiest maybe thing that we could lose, like if we didn't perform, right? Like we'll take Zillow, for example, right? Like I'm not going to put any Joe Schmuck on Zillow.
Yeah.
And because like if we don't perform, Zillow is gone. It's
You don't get
bye-bye,
it.
right?
Yeah,
You know?
exactly.
And so like I have a very high standard now for like that team, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like our team was at your office this morning, and I told them yesterday, I sent them all a group chat. I'm like, I want you to go there tomorrow physically,
Yeah,
right?
go
and,
learn.
And
Go
they
be
all
better.
showed up. Every one of them drove from here to there, right? They carpooled, a lot of them did. And they were there,
Yeah.
right? And that was important to me. And I said, hey, you don't have to go every week, but I want you to go tomorrow. I wanted
show
to see if
face,
I
go
could
learn.
get everybody to go there, right?
Yeah.
And I knew they would if I asked them to. And that was really valuable for me, right? Because I know that, okay, they all deserve it.
Yeah.
I selected the right team. It's kind of a confirmation for me.
Yeah.
Right? Like I
Who
asked
doesn't really want it, right? Like,
Yep.
but they all went.
They all went, right? So so that's like kind of the cream of the crop. Would you say that Zillow is the cream of the crop in your overall lead generation buckets, or do you have a better one than Zillow, or is Zillow the best in your opinion?
For paid leads or like that, like hard lead advertising,
Yeah, I guess
it's our
so.
strongest play right
Okay.
now. And then it makes up about 25-30% of our lead generation.
Okay.
So it's our strongest push by
Yeah.
far. But I mean, it's like you don't put all your eggs in one basket with marketing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like great marketers, they have 1,000 different landing pages, and it's the combination of all those landing pages that create lead flow.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's the same thing. Like we have every time there's a new lead source that pops up, we're looking at it. We're researching other ways. Like we even made an ancillary partner push to create even more leads that were like not even in the box for real estate agents, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like we're creating lead opportunities that no one has access to because they never controlled before, but now we do. And like that's like unique and a different spin on things where it's like you get to a point where now you have to get creative. Like you can't do things the way it's been done for a while. We talk about it all the time. What got us here today
Won't get
is
us there.
not going to get us there tomorrow. It's not. Like we have to adjust. We have to adapt and overcome. I think first time I heard that was in have you ever seen the TV show Alone? Like
I think
where
I
they're
have.
sitting out in the middle of
Yeah,
nowhere and they're just surviving.
Yep.
I think it's like the first season, the guy, like the first thing he's like, well, I didn't get that food. I guess I got to adapt and overcome. And
Yeah.
I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, shoot, you're right. Like if you don't succeed in what you're doing, figure it out. Adapt, problem solve, overcome it, do something different, find a unique alternative, you know? And so problem solving is that skill that matters for lead generation so much. And Zillow's about, like I said, Zillow's about 30%. We do a lot of other sources that make up for it, but most of the time, the strongest lead source is the source that most agents don't want to talk about or do, and it's their sphere, it's their influence, it's talking to people. But it's like no one wants to ask their friends for business. No one wants to put that like guilt pressure. Like it's the world we've trained them to think like, I don't want to make my friends and family feel bad for not using me. It's like, well, if you're the best agent for them and you truly are confident in your ability, wouldn't you want them to use you?
You're doing a disservice by not.
If they use someone
Right.
else, like, aren't they getting hurt? Like, they're not having as good of a service because they're not using you.
Yeah.
So that's where that definitive moment of like, you're not a good enough agent then yet. And you need to like be real with yourself. Like, you're obviously not that confident in your ability if you don't want to ask your friends and family. Like, how much do you have to hate them to not ask them to use you because like you don't care about their well-being? So they're going to go use some random person and that's their way, you know? So it really takes that mindset shift of like, be more confident. And if you don't feel confident yet, get better.
Yeah.
And then when you get better, you're going to feel more confident about asking for business. And personal sphere is that big chunk, right? That like it's a combination box of past clients and personal sphere and friends and people you run in contact with. But in all reality, that should be a 50% of an agent's pipeline. You know,
You think 50 is the number?
I do
Yeah.
if they're doing it well, because every year it gets easier. Those past clients that becomes your sphere. They become your family. They become your friends. They become whatever, right? And if you're not in that bucket, you're missing out on half your business, right? So yeah,
50 is the number,
because
yeah.
it's referrals, personal sphere. Yeah, I'd probably say 50%.
Yeah, the paradigm shift, I totally agree with, of like thinking of it like that, like you're talking like I'm doing them a disservice by not reaching out to them.
Yeah,
And I think that applies to every area of life, actually.
Oh,
If
yeah.
you think about like even like think of like your goals and your dreams, or
Yeah.
like what you're trying to achieve, right? Like I must not really love the people in my life if I'm gonna just like be average and be lazy and just sit on the couch. Because like what if like in the future somebody gets sick and they need me to pay for their medical bills and I'm just hanging out? Like I'm doing them a disservice. Like you know, like that's how I think about it,
Yeah.
right? Like I'm doing the people around me a disservice if I just go achieve, average.
yeah. Dude, look at the big picture. How much of a disservice would Henry Ford have given the world had he just been like, someone else will figure it out? How much longer would it took? You know, what about the Wright brothers? People like that. How much longer would it have took to improve travel? Thomas Edison, like all these people that are just great inventors, right? How much longer would our culture have taken to get somewhere if the visionaries of our culture didn't keep pushing?
Take action and
Take action.
Like get past like the self-limiting belief and the fear
Yeah.
and the fear of rejection or the fear of failure or the whatever.
They
like
had confidence. They
yeah.
knew they were going to do it, so they kept pushing. And so they were successful. They didn't hate their friends and family. They wanted to change. And so I think that's that. You got to be self-aware and be honest with yourself to think like, do I really even want to do this? Right? And if that might be your really question, like you don't want to ask your friends and family because you really hate what you do. And you probably shouldn't be a real estate agent at all because you really don't like it.
Yeah.
Like be honest with yourself.
Because you don't even want to tell people you do it, right? Like it's like you're
Yeah.
being a secret agent. Like what do you?
So
and
much.
I think like people do. You see it every day, right? Like don't be a secret agent. Like what? Why are you? Then get out of the industry. Like
Yeah,
that's
it's
like
not for you.
being a dentist and not telling anybody that you're a dentist. Like how are you gonna do anything? How are you gonna clean anybody's teeth?
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. And I think
You know?
people are they're in love with what a real estate agent looks like. They're in love with like the lifestyle of the one percenters, right? Like,
Right, like Josh Altman, like
Yeah.
$1 million listing.
yeah, you're looking at that guy and you're like,
yep.
man, I want to do that. I should
Right.
get in real estate. I'm like,
They're watching Selling Sunset.
stop.
Yep.
Yeah, no, that's not what it's about.
That's not
And-
real estate. I mean, like
No.
that is, but that's not. I mean, come on, like you gotta, you said it best. Like that's literally the 1%.
Yeah,
Right.
So it'd be like, and I'm going to use this
Not
as
even
an
the
example.
1%, like 0.1.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm gonna use this as the example because it's easy and I think a lot of people can understand. This would be like me watching the PGA Tour, okay, and like or going to the Phoenix Open and seeing it and be like, man, these guys are so good at golf. Like their lifestyle's awesome. Like this guy's got a beautiful wife and this guy's got an awesome car. Man, they're out here making millions. Like this is it. I'm gonna be a golfer.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna start taking lessons. And I'm going to go and I'm going to go do it. And I'm going to play once a week. And you know what? I'm going to be a professional golfer. And then going around and like trying to make it. And you realize that you don't want to do what Tiger Woods had to do to be successful. Like you don't really want that. You're in love with where he's at now, at the pinnacle of his career. But you didn't see that mountain that he had to climb to get to that pinnacle, right? And so I think it's the same thing for real estate. You're in love, like people are in love with that 0.001% agent that took years of grinding to get where they're at, right? They're not ready for the hard work, the dedication, the discipline that it requires to get to that point.
Sure.
You know, like you have to love the grind. And if you don't love the grind, you're never going to enjoy the finish line. Like you gotta love the work to get there.
Yeah, I totally agree. And most people don't, right? And that's why 93% of the world controls 97% of all of the wealth, statistically, right?
People
It's,
want to be told what to do.
Yeah.
They do. Like we're lying to ourselves if we don't. Most of the people want they want that.
And there's nothing wrong with that, right?
No,
As long
nothing.
as they are aware of that,
Yeah.
and they admit that to the world, like,
Yeah.
you can't. The thing I think I hate the most is when I see somebody who chose, right?
Yeah.
Because we all choose, we all
Yeah.
get to. Nobody
Yeah.
forced us to do what we do, right? Somebody who chose to like go work at Starbucks or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then all they ever do is complain about it, right? Like that I don't like, right? Like if
Yeah.
somebody's a barista and they're fired up, right? And like I go get my coffee and they're happy, I'm like, dude, good for you, man. Like you got it all figured out, right? Like you probably have it more figured out than I do. But like it's that person that is complaining. It's like, well, you chose that.
Yeah.
Right? Like nobody forced you to do that. Like you chose that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like as much as you might think you didn't have a choice, like you had one, right? And you could have done anything else. You could have went and grinded for a decade, but you chose not to.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So you got to like make a conscious decision, I think, of like what you're doing and yeah.
It's everything in life. Like I say it, I think the common thing that I tell a lot of people is you didn't want it enough. You really just didn't. Like, be honest with yourself. Do you really want that? Like, do you really want that outcome? Because if you wanted it bad enough, you would find a way to get there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you really wanted something, you'd get it. Like, for instance, if you're sitting on the couch and you're thirsty and you want a glass of water, you're going to get up and go get yourself a water. If you really don't want that water that bad, like you're like, my thirst is not worth getting up, walking to the fridge, grabbing water, right? You're not going to do it. And so that's like the simplest of terms, but it comes down to working out. Like when you beat yourself up and you're like, man, I'm still not in shape, or like, you know what? Like I'm tired of being fat. Like I tell myself this all the time. This is one of those things where I've been honest with myself. Like I clearly don't want to be in shape bad enough. Like I'm not there yet, right? Because if I truly did, I'd go to the gym. I'd eat better. But I'm not making those conscious decisions because I truly don't want it enough. And I think that's where you get to the point where you finally had enough and you're like, this is it. I'm done. Like you get to that decision-making moment and you finally want it bad enough, then you're going to put in the time to get there.
I used to say when you get sick and tired of being sick and tired,
Yeah.
then you'll make
You burn
then
the
you'll make
ships.
it happen, right?
Dude, you burn the ships. It's like you get to a point where you're like, no, there is no way back. Like I don't have other options. I'm going forward.
Agreed. And that's every area of life. I want to talk about, and there's like multiple different things that I want to get into. I want to talk first before we do about, running a team. Okay. So like for anybody that is a team leader watching, right, there's, what is there, like 2.1 million agents in the country? I think there's like 3 million licensees, but there's like only 2.1 that belong to an association.
It's something like that. There's like 40-some thousand in Arizona.
So how many
alone.
teams do you think there are in the country? If you just had to guess. In the
Dude.
whole country, like 100,000, you think?
Are we counting husband-wife teams, or what?
Probably,
what are we
yeah.
counting?
I don't know. Anybody that
Like what constitutes a team? Because we see,
I know, isn't it
we
weird?
see people with awards, and
Yeah.
it's like I'm a single agent,
Right.
But they have 3 buyers agents that help, or showing agents. They have a transaction coordinator, a bookkeeper, a marketing rep, but they're a single agent. Like they're the only one doing it. Is that a team?
well, I guess maybe not, because there's no you said it best. Like, I don't fill anything out to become a team, right? Like in America, it's not like I'm like I want to become a team. It's not like starting an LLC
Yeah.
where you have to like I can track. There's
yeah.
trackability.
So what is
and
it?
that'll lead, I think, to us talking in a little while about the CRM and the
Yeah.
software you've been working on. 'Cause
Yeah.
you're actually trying to kind of solve that problem, I think, right now in a way, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You're
I don't
trying to-
like. I guess my answer is I don't know.
Because you want to show visibility to the industry of like, okay, so then we'll get to that in a minute. So then on, like, let's just say of the teams that are people watching and listening that are teams or they want to become a team, what, in your opinion, what do you think, why do you think people fail in scaling a team to the, like, if you could narrow it down, there's a lot of reasons I think why people fail, but like, what is like the thing you see over and over and over and over and over again where a team, they start to grow, and then they fail?
They're not okay with someone doing it not as good as you. I don't even know if I said that the right way. Like they can't delegate and be okay with it. You have to be functionally okay with delegating something and know that task is not going to get good as done, or it's not going to get done as well as if you would have just done it yourself. And then also, I would say, not delegating tasks that you truly just aren't good at, but yet you still, for some reason, want to do. Like, I'm not good with the books. Like, I'm not a bookkeeper. Like, I don't love that. I'm really good at a lot of things, but bookkeeping, I don't like it. I'm not great at it. I'm not committed to it. So why the heck would I run my own books? Like, why would I want to do that? Like, I need to hire a bookkeeper. It's not that expensive. Go delegate that task, get it off your mindset, and go do something better. So I think a lot of teams end up failing because they're trying to do every task at this like 100% level, and it's not possible. So in order to truly scale and build out, go hire your sales manager. Go get a recruiter. Go get a TC. Like, you can't physically do every hat and run a team and still sell real estate all at the same time as you scale. You can't. And you need to hire people before you can afford to hire them. Like, that's so important, like with that mindset of growing a team. Like, if you're always waiting for when you're comfortable to make your next move, you're never going to grow. Like, you have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. Like, if you don't get there, you're never going to scale or be an entrepreneur. Like, the best success moments of like our career and building and growing, it's because I made an uncomfortable decision to do something we weren't ready to do yet. Once we made those decisions, sometimes they don't work out. You adapt, overcome, figure something else out. But every once in a while you hit it and you're like, oh man, we were not ready for this, but we chose to. And thank God we did, because we're heading in the right direction now. So I would say they're afraid to delegate a task, and they're not okay with that outcome being subpar. Like, you have to be okay with, like, if you're going to hire a recruiter and you know deep down that you could get 6 to 10 agents a month, like, you're like, I'd kill this. Why not be okay with hiring a recruiter to get 4?
Right.
And they're not okay with 4. So then they're pissed and their business suffers. And so they start doing that job again. And it causes their whole business to let go. And now you just lost your recruiter, because your recruiter doesn't want to help you grow, because you're taking over their job that you just hired them to do. Like, you didn't give them room to grow and build and be better. So truly, like, when you're running a business on like so much entrepreneurship with the real estate side of things, it's delegating and not being okay with it not getting done to your high standards, if you will.
I think that applies too to like everything, right? Like,
So
obviously we're talking about teams and real estate and all of that, but you know, really, you just described like building a company, right?
Any company.
Obviously,
Yeah.
like
You
in
gotta
delegate,
delegate.
hiring,
Yeah.
delegating, right? Phenomenal answer. So I want to talk about like ancillary, right? Because
Yeah.
I did that kind of on accident, and then you've done it, right? And you know, I think it's one of the reasons that I've been able to succeed at the level we have is because I never just did retail, right? I had wholesale, I had retail, we would flip houses, to me that was ancillary, right?
Yeah.
It was all,
Yeah.
I figured out a way to vertically integrate multiple different aspects of the real estate industry,
Yep.
and they all went hand in hand in some way, shape, or form,
Yep.
right? Like I didn't go start like a shoe cleaning company. Like that would be like a side hustle, right? That would have nothing to do with real estate. But for me, it was all real estate related. It wasn't
Yeah.
actually at one point. I owned like an ATM company, and then I realized like, oh, I need to just do real estate. But I could do like 20 different things in the real estate world,
Yeah.
right? And so therefore, I've been able to make a lot of profit in other ways. And then I met you, right? And you're like, dude, we're getting into mortgage, and we're getting into insurance, and we're building out software, and we're doing this and we're
Yeah.
doing that, right? And I was like, dang, like this is my guy, right?
Yeah.
Like we think alike, you know, because you think like an entrepreneur, right? And I think that's really cool. So like what would you have to say to somebody that wants to maybe go from making money just in their team, making these like really thin profit margin, 20%, 25% of self-gen or 50% of team gen or whatever, to like, hey, what other ways can I make money? You see a lot of people that go do like the JV with the
Yeah.
title company, right?
MSAs, things like that. Yeah.
MSAs, you know, like maybe we can even talk a little bit about mortgage. I don't know how much we can talk about it on
Yeah.
here, but like talk to me about what your favorite ancillary is, and then we can kind of dive into that.
Yeah, I think the first and most important thing, you know, before you dive into it, is again, like we talked about it, you have to understand what type of real estate company you're going to be, right? So if you're doing all the transactions and you're sitting in that envelope and you're like 5 agents underneath you, you're selling real estate and you're cool with that for the rest of your career, cool. Stay in that lane.
there, yeah.
Don't go do an ancillary company. It doesn't make sense.
It'll
because
take away.
It's going to take away, and you're going to do twice the work to make maybe the same amount of money. Maybe. Like, it's not worth it. And so we made a functional decision to grow a big team, which we can look back and say that was a horrible idea or not.
Right.
But look at it this way, that if
You've obviously succeeded. You've done very well, yeah.
We've succeeded, but we have 85 plus agents growing all the time. we're targeting to do over 1,000 transactions a year. Like, we want to be at that level, right? So if you're a real estate team and you're listening to this and you're like going through that phase of your career and you're like, man, we're not there yet, but when we get there, we're going to be super successful. We're going to make all this money. I need you to stop and realize that you're not going to make more money per se. You're just going to make different money. It's going to move laterally, because like with every bit of income you get, your expenses are climbing to maintain this Goliath of a type of a company.
Sure.
And real estate, like running a real estate team has to be one of the hardest, like a successful one has to be one of the hardest, like entrepreneurship type careers there is.
Agreed.
Because you're dealing with all independent contractors. You really can't tell anyone what to do, but yet you 100% rely on their business to support you financially.
Yep.
Like, that's such a weird dynamic. Every other company, you're like, you're my W-2 employee. We're going to tell you what to do. And I need you to do this and be here at this hour and do this. But like, I have to convince someone not to go to Fiji for 3 months and to stay here and sell real estate. Like, so you got to understand that piece.
Yep.
And you have to be okay with the fact that if you want to get out of selling real estate, your real estate team is not where the money's at. Look at every single major real estate team leader across the entire industry. You're crazy to think that that's all they do to make money to support a big business, because it's not. Every famous name, they either go into coaching or they go into some of these ancillary pieces. Real successful people that run real estate teams that have all this money, they all have ancillary pieces. Every single one of them has an investment company or a mortgage company or title, or like they have all these other pieces, because it's the real estate team is your springboard to make all of these other avenues possible. Mm-hmm. Like, if I can guarantee that my team's going to do 1,000 transactions a year, how many doors does that open up to me, right?
A lot.
Like,
yeah.
if I wanted to start a roofing company, for instance, and I know I have 1,000 cracks a year at the bat, and my past client list is growing every year by 1,000, who do you think those clients are going to trust when they reach back out and they say, hey, like, our roof just had a leak. Do you know anyone? Mm-hmm. Like, actually, I do. I own the company. Here you go. I'll have a guy come out and quote you tomorrow. Like, that's a free, like, doesn't cost you a single piece of marketing to get that lead,
mm-hmm.
right? So you're leveraging your real estate team as a springboard. And so the hard part about real estate, again, independent contractors, commissions are getting compressed, tighter and tighter and tighter, right? Real estate is not where the money's at, and it probably won't be ever. It never has been. So as you're scaling your team, you have to be okay with the thought that, like, we're making a volume play so that we can launch all these other things. Like, if you're not in title, mortgage, insurance, some of these other things, then you're really not running your company the right way.
Totally.
You're not.
Yeah.
Like, because that's where the money's at. Mm-hmm. Like, you're going to make 5 to 10 times more money from those companies individually than your entire real estate company that you've been spending years building.
Knowing what you know now, knowing what you know now at the size that you are, if you just owned you and Pete owned KP Elite, your 1,000 transaction goal per year team, right, which you own, what would be the first ancillary that you would do?
I'd go get title immediately.
Title, okay.
Immediately. It doesn't take a lot of work. Like, it really doesn't.
You hear a lot of people talk about the title JV, like, I hear it go,
it's very common.
Because I'll be
now.
honest with you, I've never done title.
Mm-hmm.
We were talking a bit before the show, like Pace Morby, right?
Yeah.
And I was sitting down. I don't even know if I'm allowed to say this, but I was sitting down with Pace, and Pace's goal is to start 200. I think his goal is 250 title companies.
Yeah, he told
by
me the other day. He wants, like,
2026, not JVs.
No, he wants to
He
own
owns them. He wants to own them, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, so
It's crazy. He wants like 4 in every state.
Right.
I think this is what he was
like
saying.
nationwide. Yeah.
It's crazy.
Okay, so
It's awesome, but crazy.
really dope, right? I've never done a JV or owned a title company. We've gotten pitched a million times by all the big title companies that we could name. Like, and I've heard mixed things on them, right? Like, I've heard some people are like, dude, like the JV is the best thing in the world, and other people are like, dude, don't ever do a JV.
Yeah.
So like, what's your opinion?
You got to be big enough.
Okay.
Okay, because if you don't have a high enough floor, it doesn't make sense financially, right? Like, you're paying a salary of someone to do that work. You're starting a company and you're splitting that, right? And if you want a really good relationship with your escrow company and you're starting title together, if you don't have a good enough floor, like you can't keep the lights on. It's gonna be a bad relationship. You're gonna have stress. It's just not gonna make sense. It's like having a rent payment on a tenant for a tenant on a property you own that doesn't always meet the mortgage. It'd be like if the mortgage is sitting there, but like half the time the month is, or the rent's $600 and the other half it's $1,200.
Right.
And while it's $1,200, it's good, but like when it's $600, it sucks, right? So you have to have a high enough floor, right?
Okay.
Like we're doing 1,000 transactions. If you're not doing 10 plus
A month.
a month, you shouldn't even look at it. Like you really shouldn't. If you're not doing 20 plus, you probably still should kind of hesitate and stay away because like you're not going to get 100% usage ever in anything, right? So title's the first one, absolutely, because of our size, right? Like it makes total sense. Our floor is really high, and it's an easy entry, especially in Arizona. Like it's been done. There's a blueprint there. It's easy to done. Like I'll help anybody. Like any team leader that needs it, like I'm an open book. I'll share with you exactly how to do it and get you paired with a good company and roll. It's not hard, but.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think that's the difference is like you have to have a high enough floor.
Yep. What about the people who partner with other people because their floor is not high enough? Are those the people that are complaining?
Yeah, because then if they disappear from the business, like you're losing all that piece too. Like I've had conversations with individuals that had like a strong floor, but then they supplemented with a lot of other individuals. Mm-hmm. Well, now you're relying on all these other people to help make the difference. So if they stop doing real estate, you don't have any control off of what your JV is able to do or grow. And so again, same concept. I'd rather you do that than not do it at all. Like there's still so much opportunity there, but
Yeah.
I mean, you gotta make sure you know business before you start jumping into that box of just like you shouldn't be doing your own deals and be like, I got to get a title partner. Like some people do that. They're like doing 3 to 5 and they're like, I need a JV in title and I need to start mortgage and insurance. It's like, you gotta get your foundation set up first. Mm-hmm. But once you have your foundation, it's easy to start building rooms, you know?
Yep, for sure. I love that. Okay. So title would be first and
Absolutely.
then what would you do second, knowing what you know now?
Yeah. You know, I'd like to say mortgage, but mortgage is tough, right? And it's been tough for so long because there's so many more eyes on mortgage. There's so much more RESPA stuff involved. Like it's the most obvious answer is mortgage because you need one in everything.
Yeah.
And not every state is, title and escrow. Like there's different states that do different components. So mortgage is the most obvious, but sometimes the most obvious choice isn't always the greatest choice. Insurance, if you have a big enough volume pool, would be great, but it's not short-term income. Like you're not getting paid right away.
And you're not going to make bank on that too.
Not
right?
for a while.
Not in the beginning.
Like you need
right.
like 10 years,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden you're like, yeah, I'm so happy.
Yeah.
I started insurance, right? It's like doing it's like starting a savings account or a CD or an IRA. Like it's like you're not doing it for tomorrow. You're doing it for 10 years from now. So I'd love to say insurance, but you have to be big enough. You have to have a volume play to really make any moves there. Mm-hmm. So I'd probably say mortgage. Mortgage
even
is,
with the red tape and the rest.
Oh yeah,
and yeah.
Because if you figure it out like we have, like if you figure out what it looks like, the most money can be made from mortgage. Like I'm having conversations with certain companies and certain LOs where they're getting $1 million signing bonuses. Like, where's that in real estate?
Right.
Like, where's that $1 million signing bonus? Like, we have this big team. Like, who's offering these like $1.5 million signing bonus? Come over to our brokerage and let you sell real estate. And it's like, it doesn't happen very often. Like, it's so rare. Right now in the mortgage industry, these mortgage companies are just cutting checks. Like,
yeah.
If you did 20 million last year in volume, like think about how many agents like have done 20 million in real estate. None of them are getting signing bonuses. Not a single one.
No.
They're getting asked like, oh, well, how much split am I gonna have to pay? Like that's the difference, right? In mortgage, it's like, no. We'll pay you like $500,000. Come over here and just let's sell some let's do some loans, right? So the money in mortgage is stupid.
Right.
It's stupid. Like it's so big, but there's been so much red tape and so much like fear to figuring out how to make this model work that it just hasn't worked, right? And so people they're like, it's too tough, it's too hard. I don't want to treat it like a business. Like I'm going to stay in my lane and keep doing it. But like when you figure it out and when it clicks, like it did for us, oh my goodness.
Yeah. Well, that's why like because obviously like we're involved in mortgage, right? And I don't know really how nitty gritty and granular I can get there, but I was mind blown because I always wanted to start a mortgage company.
Yeah.
And I didn't because I would talk to people over and over and over and over again. And it's just like, man, like, well, I could, but like the amount of time and energy it would take me to go divert all of my time and energy and go learn, like, and probably
it's hard.
Right.
It's not easy.
And go become an LO or do all of the things that I'd have to do to start a mortgage company, right?
Yeah.
Like it would just totally take away from what I was already building, you know? And so I never did it because I'm like, well, I already know all that over there. So I'm not going to try and go learn all that over there and then neglect everything I just took. It just took me like 10 years to learn, right? And I never did it. And then I met you and you were like, well, dude, I've got like a way better way.
We figured it out.
Yeah. And how much, by the way, can we talk? I mean, like, can you tell?
We can be pretty.
Can you tell the audience
it's all
maybe
compliant.
a little bit
good.
more about what we do and just obviously you know what we can and can't say on to the whole world, but maybe just explain it in the way that we're allowed to.
Yeah, like I think the hard part is there's so much unknown about it. Like there's been no light on the actual numbers.
If you've ever wanted to get into wholesaling real estate and you want to learn how to flip contracts and wholesale, right? Maybe you're brand new, maybe you've never wholesaled a deal, or maybe you're even doing a couple of deals a month right now, but you want to learn how to do more. Instead of joining my coaching program or somebody else's coaching program, we're actually looking to hire. So go ahead and message me 480-418-5339 and send me a text message opportunity, okay? So if you want to work with me, you want to work with my incredible team, you want all of our leads, you want all of our systems, all of our processes, everything, right? And I've done about 2,000 wholesale deals in my career, then go ahead, shoot me a text, 480-418-5339, and message me opportunity. And look, especially if you're in my state, okay, the state of Arizona. If you live in Arizona and you want to get into wholesaling, this especially is an opportunity for you because you can come sit right in this office with my entire team and be a part of one of the biggest wholesaling companies in the country. I look forward to talking to you.
Right? And so we don't really see what's there. But people know like there's money involved in it, right? And so for the longest time, it's like, man, are we doing a good enough job here, right? And so we'll start it out with like the MSA piece of it, which is markets or a marketing service agreement. Most team leaders, most owners, they know about it, right? Like it's the lender saying, hey, let us advertise to your team or your events or your website. And RESPA compliancy wise, like we're gonna pay for half your leads. Like we can split 50%, and really they're paying for stuff, and they're helping you offset costs, so you're lead generating together. Completely compliant way to do it.
And people do it all the time.
All the time,
all day long.
If your first entry, like if you're a small team,
That's
go get
what
an
you should
MSA.
do. Yep.
Go get an MSA tomorrow. Like you need to go talk to your lender and say, hey, I'm giving you 3+ deals a month. Like, what the heck, guy? Like, I need some events covered or something.
For sure.
Like, for real.
If you're not getting that, you're missing out.
Yeah, like that's an easy thing. And you know what? The lender knows, like there's business coming from you. Like you're a marketing source, and right now you're free.
Yep.
You're just a personal
Which
sphere
they
source.
love right now.
Oh, of course. You're going to go talk to them, and they're going to be like, man, that stupid Keith on that podcast told me to like pay money now. And so in all reality, if your lender's not willing to give you something for that, you need to find a new lender.
You find a new lender,
You need to. Like it's not cool, right?
Yep.
So that MSA is your first step. But we're talking pennies.
Yep.
We're talking pennies, right? Like your average MSA that you're seeing out there in the industry is like, it's only what they can pay for.
Couple grand a month typically,
Max.
right? And they're paying for
Max.
like because we've had many, where it's like they're paying for half of our follow-up boss, so they're paying for half of our whatever. I mean, I don't, and it's not. I mean, like it's nothing to get excited about.
No,
for me.
I mean it's like
maybe in the beginning it is.
You're like, ooh, that just saved me a couple grand, right? But the grand scheme of a company, right? When you're spending hundreds of thousands a month in expenses, what's $2,000?
Nothing.
It's nothing. It's not moving the needle at all. And so that's a good place to start. But like that's what most teams have. And right, so then the next like logical step because of the title industry is like, oh, we need to go start a JV. Like this is it.
Yeah.
We need to do it ourselves, or we need a partner because we're doing it in title. And so you're like, okay, let's do that. Like this seems fun. Like JV, there's tons of money in it. And there is more money in a JV, right?
JV mortgage.
JVing a mortgage company, right? That means you're a part owner of it. There's a ton of red tape with a JV because it's got to be RESPA compliant. Like it's gotta fit the boxes. Like you can't be incentivizing or giving referrals or anything. You can't be paying for the deals to go that way. That's steering. Like we can't do that. Like it's not allowed. So a JV is truly like you're going to be running a company and you're going to pay for the expenses and pay for the marketing and you're going to make half, right? Or 49% of whatever the JV. So you don't have a controlling interest. And so that's your next logical step. But most JVs, they have corporate overlay with a regional override, with another corporate overlay. And like if you ever want a decision to be made, how many people have to say yes? Like you're going into a box and they're saying like, hey, I need help with this one deal, like, or we need to hire this person, or we need to like pay for this lead source or do this thing. How many people have to say yes or approve that in order to functionally make moves in your business? And what ends up happening is the margins are still so tight with a JV. Like you're making money, but let's be honest, like that mortgage company's not doing it if it doesn't make financial sense for them. Like they're not going to go through all the risk and the liability and the work of setting up this separate company so that they can JV with you on your own private branch if A, you don't have enough volume coming in to make it worth their while, or B, they're not making profit.
Sure.
They need one of those or both of those things to happen before it makes sense. So with a JV, like full transparency, you're looking at, more than $2,000 a month, maybe 10 grand, maybe 15. Sure. But here's the problem is like you're going underwater on a month. Like you eat the expense just as much as you eat the profit, like any company, right? So if you don't do well that year or that month or that week, like guess what? You're paying. Like it's a company. You're 50% into this thing, right? So, and you have no control of your own company. Like that's the thing that's crazy is like you're a 50-50 partner, right? But you don't have any control really of making it better. So you're limited, and you're limited to just what your team can do. Yeah. Like you can't extend, you can't grow, you can't build.
And that's a big one, right?
Yeah.
You're not only limited by what your team can do, but that is all you can do. I mean, like there's no other way to make money.
Yeah.
It's just what can my team send?
Yeah, I got to get my team to buy in more and like do more deals. That's the only way I can make more money on that side. And that's tough. And so you're always got like a 1 foot in the door, right? And the other piece of it is like, well, what about refis? Because they happen. Yeah. Lenders know about it all the time. Like it'd be like buying and when you get a real estate transaction and they got to sell their house and buy the next one, you're like, oh, a 2-for-1, right?
Yeah, you're fired
like you think about it all the time. You're like, oh, they got to buy and sell. Like that's 2 transactions. Well, mortgage does it every 3 years. They get another transaction at times, especially with a volatile market like this. Yep. Like they're going to get a refi in the next couple years.
Right.
That's another deal. That makes all their money.
Yep.
Do you think your branch is getting that refi?
Nope. Not
do
if
you
you
think
have a JV.
do you think that income's going through your JV? Of course not.
No.
Like you're not getting anything. So you really don't have control to grow something big, right? Like you really don't. And so I think that's the biggest piece of it is there's so much limitations with doing something, right? And so we found a solution that isn't a JV, that isn't an MSA, and gives us the control that we need to help grow another company, right? To be a vested partner in growth of an entire branch. And so without getting crazy into the weeds, it's like 3 to 5 times the money.
Yeah.
It's stupid compared. And you have the scalability. Like, wouldn't it be nice to run a branch where it's like you have the chance to make hundreds of thousands a month, not 10 grand, not 5 grand? Like you have the ability and the opportunity to run a company that can make hundreds of thousands a month. Yep. It's like our real estate team's never going to make that ever. Right. If it could, I'd be like, we'd be fine. I wouldn't need to do anything else, right? But it doesn't. It doesn't have that scalability. It's never going to get there. So it's the same conversation we had in the past. Is like you're using your real estate team as a springboard to create opportunities, not only that help support your agents, but also support your clients and helps make their experience better too, right? Like that's the goal. Like we want the consumer experience to be amazing, but we also want our agent experience to be amazing, because when you're running a real estate team, like they're your clients. The agents are your clients. Like you're there to support them. You're building them. And so the mortgage piece that we figured out finally checked that off the box, and it's doing fantastic.
Yeah, it's truly incredible. And it was something I've never seen, I've never heard of, prior to meeting you, and I'm fired up about it. I think that we're already off to a really good start.
Yeah.
And we're just getting warmed up. I mean, we haven't even
6 months, 7 months in, and it's like nuts.
Yeah, like not, and I don't even. We're not even. You're 6 or 7 months
Yeah,
in. Like
you guys are a couple months.
three months in
Yeah.
at the most. And really like a month of like me pushing.
Yeah.
Like somewhat hard, right? And we still have a lot of people to talk to and a lot of room to grow, and I'm excited for that. Are there any other ancillary things that you would say to a team leader out there that they could do? We talked about the big one, the big three, right? Mortgage, title, insurance. Is there any hidden thing that people aren't thinking of that Keith is thinking of?
It depends on how creative you want to get, right? Like you could do a lot. I think a big push that's going to come that we need to really focus on, that I'm looking at in 2023 and 2024, is the blue collar stuff. Like, no one's graduating high school saying, like, I want to be a plumber when I grow up. Like, no one's doing that right now. So what happens in the next 5 years, 10 years, when there's no plumbers left?
Yep.
Like, who's going to trade school for this stuff, right? Like, who's starting a plumbing company or a roofing company and these other things that are ancillary pieces of real estate? So I think any housing blue collar work stuff, like I have a couple other agent team leaders that I'm friends with, and they're telling me like they started some of those and they're killing it.
I bet.
Killing it.
Yeah.
Like, they get so many opportunities because first off, no one answers the phone. So no one's like responding. No one's available. So like, it's an easy business to jump into if you have the setup and the infrastructure, right?
And if you're a business owner, right? Like,
Yeah.
if you
know how to run it.
Yeah. And I agree. I think one of our agents on our team, I don't know exactly how they're related, but I think her like boyfriend is like the brother of like a woman that's married to a guy, and they basically sold a plumbing company for like 50 mil.
Yeah.
A friggin' plumbing company, dude.
It's like,
right?
man, I can't sell my real estate company for anywhere near that.
No, dude.
You know?
And I
So-
think they only, and I don't want to like butcher it, in case they're listening, but so I'm just I think that's what they did, but it was a big number, and I think it was like, dude, it was a part of the company. They didn't even sell the whole thing. Like, they still have ownership of the company, right?
They got royalties. Or
They got
whatever else.
something. I don't know the way they structured the deal, but dude, it's a plumbing company we're talking about, right?
Blue collar's legit. Like, when could you ever think that you could be a plumber and make $250,000 a year?
Wild.
Would you have thought that, like, getting through high school? They're like telling you, go be an engineer, go to college, learn how to do software, computers, be something crazy, right?
Yep.
But then, like, a plumber's making $250,000 a year.
Right.
A good
It's
plumber.
insane. Yeah.
Like, what are we doing? Like, when did this switch? Like, we're in there now. Like, we're in this element, and we're looking back like, oh, no. The guys that, like, didn't go to college, that just went to trade school and learned how to be an electrician, they're going to make $500,000 this year.
Right.
Like what? Like, that actually happened? And so
Yeah.
it's kind of those funny jokes, like you saw, like, our culture swing, right? Where it was, like, early on, it was the funny thing of, like, the popular kids in high school that were on the football team but weren't very smart. And so they, like, ended up in this dead-end job. And, like, there was this, like, 80s, 90s, like, stigma out there where it was, like, those nerdy guys would go to college and then they'd get this best, like, really cool degree, and then they'd be, like, making hundreds of thousands a year, right? When did that switch to where now, like, the popular kids that didn't go to college now all of a sudden are, like, plumbers and mechanics and engineers and diesel guys and linemen, and they're making, like, hundreds of thousands of dollars? Like, have you ever thought, like, when did that shift happen?
Yeah.
And we're like, oh my gosh, like, wait, like, the kids that used to make fun of those guys, like that meme that was popular in the 90s before memes were a thing, now isn't true anymore. It went back.
Right, yeah.
Right?
The whole
and
thing
so blue collar's going to be king here down the stretch. So that's...
starting companies like that.
Oh, yeah.
Like, if you're
need it.
successful, and I think, like, I mean, come on. I mean, you could even buy, like, little bitty, I mean, like, mom and pop type things, like maybe people that they don't understand, like, marketing, branding.
Yeah.
They don't understand, like,
Or they don't
scale.
have 1,000 transactions a year to immediately, like, increase their marketing. Like, you don't even need marketing if you have 1,000 deals. Like, they're paying for ads. I don't need ads. I have a past client database that I can just text.
Right.
Like, that's crazy to think, but, like, it's there for the taking.
Yeah. It's wild. It gets my wheels turning, right? Of, like, dude,
Yeah.
like, going and finding, plumbers, electricians, and pool. Dude, I owned a pool company when I was a kid, right?
It's cake.
And so simple. I mean,
When
like,
you were a kid, I love that. Like,
Yeah.
I owned it when I was a kid. You're like 12 and cleaning pools
right.
and making thousands.
dude, like 40, 50 grand a year at literally 12,
Yeah.
11, 12, yeah. and you know, it was a simple model, right? I mean, like everybody's got a pool in Arizona, right? And you know, like that is you could build that company, build a route, right? And it is a sellable company, right? And I think that's what's so fascinating about like what you're talking about is like there's all these different companies that you could go start, right? There's one in Gilbert, and the guy's a younger dude. It's Green Mango, and there's like a bunch of other there's oh man,
is it Blue something?
Yeah,
Is it,
Blue. There's like
Blue Shield. Oh, I can't remember.
Something to that effect, right?
Yeah.
And there's and what's the pest one? The pest control. It's
I know Green Mango, and I'm trying.
Yeah, the Green Mango. I guess there's a pool one though. Anyways, the same kid owns all of those.
Yeah.
Like the same dude. Like that's all a brand.
And it's not hard.
Yeah.
And he just knew business and went. Like, so I think there's going to be a big blue collar push in the next 3 to 5.
Yep.
Like probably sooner. And when these people that don't know how to run a company, like in all reality, they're great plumbers.
Yeah.
It's just like being an agent. If you're a great agent, does that mean you should start a real estate team? No. If you're a great plumber, does that mean you should start a plumbing company? Probably not. Like, you're not necessarily an entrepreneur. You're just really good at doing that task. And that's okay. Like, you can still make a ton of money doing that, but you have to be honest with yourself. Like, should you be running a marketing company? Like, should you be doing that stuff? And so it's going to open up doors for people that like us to come in and create opportunity, like team leaders that have this stable flow of transactions. So there's that piece. Yeah. I have one that I'm really excited about that I'm starting right now that
we talked about it earlier.
It's super creative.
Tiny bit.
Like this is an ancillary piece that is like I don't even think it's what you're thinking.
Oh, it probably isn't.
No.
Then.
So it's an ancillary piece that is attached but completely different. It's like creative. So it's gonna be the first time I'm sharing it like live with anybody. Like it's starting to finally come to fruition, and we're really excited about it. But I'm starting an actual golf tour, like a private golf tour league. Okay. This league is for real estate agents only, right? And so like think about it in this box is like I'm in that box. I know agents, and I haven't met very many many agents that don't like to golf. Like it's kind of this weird like stigma of like you golf and you do real estate and you kind of figure out the rest from there, right? And so what's different is like you can get as creative as you want with these companies, right? And as long as they touch your business in any way, it's an ancillary piece. Like if I can leverage my real estate team to springboard this business, why wouldn't I do it, right? And so like we're gonna call it Real Tour, which is pretty cool. Like we already have a lot of the rights and all the stuff on it right now, and it's gonna be the Real Tour golf, like real golf tour for real tours.
Wow.
Like think about that. Like it's crazy. So we're excited about it.
What will it entail? What like just give me like the highlight. Like what's gonna be the like what are you gonna do? What you know?
So we're gonna do we're in between like a 16 to 24 an event season, like a full season. Like you see the golf tournaments out there, but like how many actual leagues are out there like full on going with like legit outside the box thinking, right? And everybody. Like I have never seen a scramble tournament that didn't fill up immediately. Like I've never seen it, right? So like when you see a lot of leagues, like you expect like, oh, I have to be really good at golf to like be a part of this league or do this. But it's like if you add in handicaps and let all golfers just kind of have like an even playing field and like mix it up for both good golfers can win and even somebody that's like a 22 handicap can come in and just like do okay that day and like run away with money. Like that's going to be a cool component where you'll have team events, individual events, and like super outside the box, like fun, different creative things. But then I want to have a players championship for this like private fun league for just agents and have a chance to win $50,000.
Sure.
Like think about that. Like if your softball league allowed you to win $50,000,
dude.
I'm practicing softball daily, brother. Like I'm going out, I'm going to be pitching for corners. Like I'm putting it in the back corner. No one's hitting. I'm going to be doing spinning. Like it's nuts, right? But it's like golf's this one thing that's getting so popular right now, right? And no one's doing it. Like it's too difficult. It feels too complex to like put something together. So you know what? We're doing it, and we're going to make it real estate agent only. Like so, like it's going to be tough access to get in, but it's going to be like a super like private league, and it's gonna have ranking sheets and power rankings of like full on like articles on all the players, full videography, everything. So it's gonna be kind of cool. I think it's gonna be something different that maybe our spin to enter the golf industry that like most people don't have. So
I love
we're
that,
excited.
And I think it is totally an ancillary. Like I mean, like there's so many cool things that you could do with that. And we live in Arizona. And
We golf all year.
Everybody golfs except for me apparently, but I'm getting better. I'm practicing, so one day at a time, And I was never a golfer, like growing up. And then I actually played like baseball growing up for like a couple years. I think that screwed me up more than anything. But I'm getting better at golf right now currently. So we'll see. We'll play it by ear. We'll see if we get any better. A couple of questions in kind of closing. Why EXP? So like, where were you at before? Like, why did you come over? Right. I think it's important. I want to always ask anytime I'm sitting down with a guy like you of your caliber, right? Like, why the brokerage you're at?
Mm-hmm.
I'm obviously at the same brokerage, right? But I think a lot of people, there's still so many people I think that are at brokerages that aren't great for them.
Yeah.
And I don't know if there's skepticism. Like, I don't know why they stay a lot of times. Like, I look at them, I'm like, why are you where you're at? Like, I can't wrap my brain around that, So, like, when did you move over and why?
We're about 4 years in, I think, 4.5, somewhere around there. First off, if you run a real estate team and you don't have a revenue sharing piece attached to your real estate team from your brokerage, you're not doing it right. Like, so I guess if you go back to that ancillary piece conversation, before a title, I'm going to join a brokerage that makes me money. Like, the first ancillary piece is actually your correct brokerage, like, if you really want to go about it. Because, like, you need to shift the conversation from how much do I have to pay to work here versus how much do I get paid to be here and, like, to influence, to be a part of that. So if you run a real estate team and you're not at, and it's not even just EXP, like, there's other platforms out there that are revenue sharing places. If you're not at a brokerage that is doing some sort of revenue sharing component, then you're already starting off the wrong foot, right? I chose EXP over those other ones because I think it has the extra stuff with tech and some of the other things that really, like, change the game, that puts it far ahead of everything else. And it has it, and it's dialed in, and it's a machine. It's growing and it's building. So, but at the end of the day, it's like, I'm going to do real estate anywhere, right? I could have success running our real estate company in any brokerage. So why not be at a brokerage that at least pays me to be there?
Agreed.
Like, I'm going to have success wherever. Like, you can do real estate at any company, but why not get paid while you're doing it? Like, it makes no logical sense to run a team somewhere else. If you want to have the argument about being an individual agent and it making sense, sure. I'm sure that there's lots of, like, different value pieces that map that out. But if you run a real estate team, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Be at a revenue sharing brokerage.
I think if you're a producing agent too, like, if I don't understand any argument that would be like, the only argument I can wrap my brain around, like, why you would be at, like, I'm not going to say names, but why you would be at a flat fee brokerage, right? Because that's the alternative, in my opinion, to like an EXP, right? It's like, oh, I'm going to join a flat fee brokerage and pay $299 a transaction and like, life's going to be good, right? Is like, if you're doing like a deal or two a year, like you're like part-time stay-at-home mom and you're just trying to net the most amount of money that you can net and take home, right? Then, like, that to me is like, then you wouldn't join a company like EXP. That is the only reason that I can even remotely think of.
Like, if you're like an individual type
thing?
If
you're an individual agent, like if you're not running a team. So now we're talking about like an agent who's not on a team, right?
Yeah.
Like, how come those agents like stay with these random brokerages? It's
that
like,
could make sense.
Shouldn't they also get paid too, like, to go like talk to their friends and family at a brokerage like EXP?
I probably, but like, I think it's the same component of, like, you have to be truly honest with yourself. Like, I'm a realist when it comes to the fact that, like, not every brokerage is perfect for everybody. It doesn't make sense. Like, so people out there that saying you're crazy if you're not here, you're like, it's perfect fit for every human being. Like, that doesn't make sense. Like, people have reasons to be at different places. And so that's why I say it isn't a perfect fit for every single agent. I don't think if you really want certain things and you need a broker next to you at your office every single day to talk to, maybe that there's better fits out there. Or if you're only doing 2 to 3 transactions a year, like, go to 100% shop and take a little portion of your checkout and just do your 2 to 3 deals. But like, if you're trying to grow a team or grow a business, this is the platform. Like,
I agree.
You're missing out on thousands of dollars a month. Like, start somewhere and let's just be logical with some things, right? Like, forget everything else. Just make a logical decision to run your company on a platform that pays you. Like, it's that simple.
Yeah. And then kind of in conclusion, are you going to do any real estate investing? Obviously now you're getting, you've grown a couple of pretty big companies.
Yeah.
You're continuing to scale some large operations. Like what's the next step for you after the golf? Obviously the golf and scale the
stuff,
scale the mortgage, right? And all that. But like then what?
Yeah, I think, it all comes down to it. Like, I was thinking about it the other day. That was like really important to me of like, why do I do what I do? Right? Like it came down, like I had to ask myself, like, why go for more? Right? Like at what point is it going to be good enough to where I'm just like, why do I keep going? Like, why can't I just enjoy where I'm at? Like, why can't I just, or like, why can't I just sit in this box and just be content and be comfortable? Right? And so I thought about it because, money doesn't necessarily motivate me. It never has. It's kind of those weird things where money motivates a lot of people and it doesn't motivate me. Like seeing my bank account be bigger than it was last month, I get nothing out of it. So it creates like this concept of like, I can get lazy really easy or I can procrastinate really easy because 30,000 to 50,000 doesn't make a difference. Like it really doesn't, like if I really wanted to, I could live on less than 10 grand a month and just have a quality of life and just, and it's a great quality of life at that living, right? Like it's great and I'd be happy. So I had to ask myself like at some point of why do I keep pushing? Like, why would I want to go start another company or add all this extra work or do more? And, I'm a strong man of faith and I really did a lot of praying about it and thinking about it. And I think, it came to a point where it's like, God has given certain people abilities to do certain tasks. And I think that the ability that he gave me is to run companies and build business and problem solve and create opportunities, right? And innovate. Like that's what I've been given. And so it finally came down to the point of like, God gave me the ability to make more, right? So that I can give more, so that I can show people Christ through those actions. And like a 1, 2, 3 of like that push of like, I keep making more so that I can give more to create that side of my lifestyle, right? Like give other people items or opportunities or, situations that otherwise they wouldn't have, right? And then hopefully like through that, they can see Christ and see what this whole life's really all about, right? And so from there, like the concept is like, okay, so we're at a place where we need to scale and we need to continue to grow so we can create more of those opportunities. And so it is the investment piece. It's, getting more of those hard assets. It's creating a more diverse portfolio with more companies and influencing more people. But at the end of the day, it's just, I think, investing in both people and assets to change that trajectory of like your generational wealth conversation, And so I guess that's where we're sitting right now is like looking at some of the investing boxes of how do I feel like I don't even have to show up today to like have that income opportunity to be able to grow and just let those continue to scale from that,
Sure. Yeah, I love that. And I love what you said about the faith piece. And like, I'm pretty similar boat. I think that like I've put a lot of thought into it and I'm a little bit younger than you, but I hope that as I get older, I figure out even more like what that specific calling is, but I think like it's very similar to yours, which is just like giving more. Giving more time, more money, more energy too.
Everything.
A lot of it's not all just money too. Like a lot of it's just like time and energy. But with more money, I have more time and energy.
Correct.
Right. And so it's kind of like I'm able to do these different things, and it's a lot of fun. Would you say that faith has played like a big role in your success?
100%. There's no success without the faith piece. Without Christ, like none of this is even important. It doesn't even make a difference. So. 100% contribution to that, without a doubt.
I love that. Well, Keith, dude, I appreciate you being on, man. Where can people find you?
Oh, shoot. Our big channel for like Instagram right now is at the KP Elite. We do our own podcast and have a lot of other stuff on our YouTube channel for at the KP Elite. So that's like probably the most predominant, but we're all over the place. So
awesome, dude. Well, I'll put all the links to your social medias and everything down in the description below. I appreciate you being on the show, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
We'll have you on in a year or two and see how far you've come.
Hopefully sooner, because then it's scaled faster.
Yeah,
so.
Dude, I love that, man. Well, I appreciate you being on. And if you're still watching on YouTube, if you do me a massive favor, just drop a comment down below, like and subscribe if you haven't already. I would greatly appreciate it. It would definitely help support us and the channel to continue to bring you phenomenal episodes. If you're watching or if you're listening anywhere else, make sure you leave a 5-star review. Thank you for watching. We'll see you in the next one.